17 years ago, another ship carried refugees no one wanted. The Tampa was a Norwegian container ship whose captain rescued more than 400 mostly Afghan refugees from a sinking fishing boat in the Indian Ocean. Nearby was Australia's Christmas Island. But facing a re-election campaign, Prime Minister John Howard refused to let the Tampa's captain bring his ship into Australian waters, sending soldiers aboard when he tried. The refugees were instead taken to Nauru, a tiny Pacific island country which was paid by Australia to take them. What was seen as toughness by Howard helped win him re-election. Most of the Tampa's refugees were eventually brought to Australia or New Zealand, but competing on toughness towards so-called boat people has been a theme of Australian politics since. Policy now is to turn back boats at sea. Refugees who do get through are deported to remote Pacific islands and told they'll never be brought to Australia. More than 1,000 people have been held on Papua New Guinea's Manus Island and in Nauru for almost 5 years. Australia's policies were seen as extreme. Now they are being copied.
Australia isn't a role model for Europe or a role model for countries anywhere when it comes to refugees. In fact, Australia is a textbook example of how not to treat refugees and asylum seekers. And I think European leaders, if they're looking at the Australian model, should go to Manus and Nauru. They should go and meet the refugees and asylum seekers and see how their lives have been completely destroyed by this policy.
But Australian politicians and their supporters think a tough approach to what they call illegal immigration has meant people have had faith in the immigration system more broadly.
This was a sign to the public at large that the nation state still existed, that it could still control its borders. And that ultimately meant public confidence in our immigration system was enhanced, which allowed us to have a regulated, orderly refugee humanitarian program that, as I say, is one of the largest per capita in the world.
Australia's Prime Minister was applauded in April when he gave a speech in Berlin making a similar argument. Humanitarian organisations are appalled Australia's model is being exported. Australia's politicians are claiming vindication. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Sydney.